Welcome one, welcome all.
That was very good.
How are you guys today? I'm glad to hear it. I hope you guys are well. I hope this does nothing to change that. It is Monday, our happiest day of the week. Although this week you get two happiest days, because we have our exam on Thursday, then you have more than a week of mourning, right, because at that point it's spring break.
Will you skip the break for it?
But if you guys are really, really sad, remember, we installed those benches outside so that you guys could come here during your spring break and have your own little physics lectures.
They even have chargers next to them.
Elijah has shown that he's capable of mimicking my Doldrum monitor. All right, so this is where we left off last, what day was that? Wednesday? So let's look at a couple of possible cases. So surface one, we have n1 is 1, inside we have that n is n, n2 is n. You can say that 1 over p1 plus n over q1 needs to equal n minus 1 over r. I call that equation 1. And just note that if the image due to S1 is surface 1 is virtual, so then we wind up with Q1 is less than 0. And if it's real, Q1 is greater than 0. Yay enough?
This is lenses or refracting surfaces?
This is a refracting surface.
Refracting, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm using this to make a thick lens, which I'm then going to let T become very, very small, which will make it a thin lens. But this is just true for our spherical refracting surface. So for surface 2, we have n1 is n, and what's n2 this time? So this is surface 1, this is surface 2. So outside of the lens I want to be air, so in this case n2 is 1. Right? The roles of these get reversed.
Oh.
So we have n over p2 plus 1 over q2 just go back, is equal to 1 minus n over r2. Yay? So So P2, we could say is minus Q1 plus T with the convention that I outlined up here. So again, remember virtual image from S1, Q1 is negative, real image from surface 1, Q1 is positive. Yay? So I'm going to argue, oh goodness. I need way more space. Okay, I'll just move to the next part. For a thin lens, how will T compare to either R? So I want T to be much, much less than R for a thin lens. T is the thickness. Yay? So then, in that case,
Why you want to use T? So many variables.
T equals thickness.
well, so I had to start by treating this as two refracting surfaces separated by some distance, T, the thickness of the lens.
Oh,
Now I want to argue that let's make our lives easier and solve this for the special case of a thin lens where T gets small.
okay.
So if T is small, what can I say about this equation?
P2 is approximately Q1.
P2
Yeah, P2 is approximately negative Q1. So we can plug in this statement into this equation, and then we get n minus n over Q1 plus 1 over Q2 is equal to 1 minus n over R2. And I call that equation 2. And then we can add equations 1 and 2. If we do that, P1 plus n over Q1 plus minus n over Q1 plus 1 over Q2 is equal to n minus 1 over R1 plus 1 minus n over R2. Not terrible. And then what nice thing happens on the left side?
N over Q1 counts as well.
N over Q1 goes away. And so we're left with 1 over P1 plus 1 over Q2 is equal to, I think I went with 1 minus n. I went with n minus 1. Times, oh yeah, because I wanted to keep that positive. 1 over R1 minus 1 over R2. Yay. So here we're starting to get towards something that looks familiar to us. If we think of kind of our refracted rule that if we put the object infinitely far away, where should the rays converge?
The focal point.
at the focus. And so if we let P1 approach infinity, then Q2 should approach F. Yeah? And so we could say that 1 over F is equal to n minus 1 times 1 over R1 minus 1 over R2. Yay? It's the same as saying yay? But what does that allow me to simplify this equation to? Well, we now have a statement that the stuff on the right is just 1 over F. So 1 over P1 plus 1 over Q2 is equal to 1 over F for thin lenses. So we can kind of drop subscripts here, right? We're saying that if you put the object in front of the front side of this lens, you're going to get an ultimate image from the second face of the second surface. So we can say, put the object, call it the P1 distance, you're going to get an image overall. I'm just going to call that Q instead of subscripting it. And that is the equation that we've already been using, so thank goodness. Questions, comments, concerns? All right, then I want to go over sign conventions for thin lenses. We've done plenty for ray tracing. And if you go through our problem session videos, we've also done a bunch of combo lenses. I'm going to let that stand. And so after I go through sign conventions for thin lenses, I want to talk about the human eye, common issues with the eyes that might lead to you wearing glasses, or me wearing glasses. So, our sign conventions for thin lenses. And then my goal would be for Wednesday, we do a little bit of examples with optics, and then I'm probably going to set the stage for relativity. So I'll probably start with a little bit of Galilean relativity, and then move us into some of the principles of Einsteinian relativity.
Did you post a practice exam?
I think so. I posted a worksheet.
Okay.
So Cecil and the elections.
Oh,
It's been up since I think Saturday night,
Wow.
when one of your kind classmates reminded me.
So nice.
Bear in mind, I go to sleep early, for those of you who wish to remind me of things. I'm an old man. presbyopia. I have to write this out. So, P, the object location in this equation, will be positive for a real object, meaning it's in front of the lens. It will be virtual for a virtual object behind the lens. The image location Q the image is in back of the lens, it's a real image. And it's a negative image location if the image is in front of the lens, a virtual image. Image height h prime, it will be positive if the image is upright. And it will be negative if the image is inverted. R1 and R2 will be positive if the center of curvature is in back of the lens. Behind the lens. And negative if it's in front. And then focal lengths. Will be positive for a converging lens. And negative for a diverging lens. And then we've used this before, but I'll give it again. The magnification is just h prime over h, which is going to wind up being minus q over p. Hooray! Cecilia.
I was wondering if maybe for R1 and R2, we get like an image just for clarification.
Sure.
Of the different ones.
So, So R1 here is positive.
Okay.
R1 here is negative.
Thank you.
And I'm assuming, by the way, that light is coming this way.
What about R2? Will be the opposite?
So here, if I curved it this way, then that's why this wound up being negative, right? Because now the radius of curvature, depending on how this is curved, right? I'm assuming that it's curved like this.
Right,
Now
so-
the radius of curvature is back here. But I didn't make any statement about R2, but the same rule still applies. If the radius of curvature is in front of the surface, it's negative. If it's behind the surface, it's positive. Okay?
Thanks.
Questions, comments, concerns? We're happy. Yay. Okay. Then let's talk about the human eye.
Adding time.
Well, for anatomy, you should talk to a different professor, but I'll at least give you, I guess, probably secondhand information about that and kind of, from my perspective, how this works. How do I want to color this?
Is that an eye?
It will be. I've seen worse. Okay. That is, I don't know, not amazing, but not horrible. So this is your cornea. This is the aqueous humor, the vitreous humor. I didn't really leave myself room to write this. I'm kind of mad at myself. Crystalline lens. Your retina. The macula is this back portion of your eye, and the fovea macula you got here. Fovea macula tends to be little pittish region. in the macula. You have, let me exaggerate this some more. Somehow all the worse for wear. Okay, so the iris somewhat resembles curtains. It's meant to this is a challenging when I first started teaching, I could rely on the fact that students had taken a photo before. And I know you guys have taken a photo before, but you've probably not taken a photo that wasn't automated. But yeah, anyone ever played around with f-stops on a camera? So you have to be careful not to let too little light in or too much light in, or the photo won't come out, right? It's either going to be too dark or it's going to be oversaturated. Yeah. So the iris serves that role. When you go to the eye doctor and they put those drops in your eye to dilate your pupil, basically they've numbed the iris, and you're getting a whole lot of light through. That's why they give you those
Glasses.
yeah the little sheet of plastic to try and keep it so that you don't walk outside and feel sunblind. Yeah. Most of the so your eye is just a water lens, right? So it is attempting to do something like this, right? Where you have light coming in, and the goal was to bring as much light as possible to the fovea. Okay? And so you have rods and cones. The rods detect just the presence of light. The cones really are only found in great number in the fovea. So the rods just detect the presence of light. The cones are differentiated so that you can actually distinguish color. Yeah? Is that okay? So there's some cool stuff here. Cool in the eye of the beholder, I think. But if you just take a pen and wiggle it in the periphery of your vision,
It's a magic trick.
you can probably see it, but you, if you have it at the very periphery of your vision, you probably can't see what color it is.
We will be fall asleep.
This is, I'm not trying to push anything on you guys. So whether you want this to be evolution or whether you want this to be by design, I actually don't care. Pick pick whatever you prefer. But it stands to reason that this makes sense. If something is coming at you from the side, you don't actually, your first concern shouldn't be what color it is, right? Your first concern should be to note its presence. So rods and cones take differing amounts of energies before they stimulate the optic nerve and send a signal to the brain. So, which one do you think takes more energy to fire? The cones or the rods?
Horns.
The cones do. So the rods will only see that there's light. It doesn't tell you what color it is. It just sends the signal. Cones take more energy. That's, whether, again, why you think it happens this way is not something that they pay me to try and dissuade you one way or the other. But
Are you biology major here?
The rest of my family is biology majors. So, at night, have you ever seen someone's car at night and then in daylight you realize that it's not quite the same color that you thought?
Yeah.
Why so? Well,
Because we're not getting the required light to bounce off the correct color.
yeah, you're not using the cones quite as much as you are. Again, this is probably evolutionary, right? That your first concern seeing something at night isn't necessarily telling what color it is. It's noticing its presence, right? And so in low light levels, you're more likely to see. You're more likely to be sending signals to the brain via the rods than you are the cones. Does that make sense? There's other cool stuff here. You gone swimming underwater? Is it easy to see?
No.
Why not? What's in front of my eye if I'm underwater? Water. What's my eye mostly made of? By the way, the aqueous humor, the vitreous humor, those are fancy ways of saying water.
Yeah. Water.
So
Fancy name to water.
how do we get refraction? Refraction occurs when light traveling in one medium encounters the boundary of a second medium where its speed is different. If I have water in front of my eye and my eye is water, then I don't get much refraction at all. And so I can't actually focus light to the fovea. Does that work for you? So what is the common cure for not being able to see underwater?
Goggles.
Yeah, trapping a little layer of air in front of my eye by wearing goggles, right? That's the role of the goggle, is it traps a little bit of air in front of your eye so that the light is coming from air into your eye as it normally would. Does that make sense? More cool stuff about the eye. Note that I've left off kind of this layer of retina at the optic nerve, right? By the way, you ever know anyone who had macular degeneration?
Yeah.
So, it typically for most people who develop macular degeneration, it happens later in life, but it can happen to younger people too. But typically, if you know someone who has macular degeneration, it tends to be someone my age or older. I know it is, believe it or not, it is possible to be older than this. My brothers are proof of that. So the macula is kind of like a laminar sheet, and it can start to break and peel away from the the back surface of the eye. If that happens, then the rods and cones aren't able to send signals properly to the optic nerve. That's obviously not good, right? But note that the retina here, I've kind of delineated where the optic nerve connects to the brain. You actually have almost no rods and no cones, but really you only have cones in any great number at the fovea. The rest of this is all rods. You have almost no rods above the optic nerve. And so this actually leaves you with a very big blind spot. You actually have a pretty big blind spot in each eye. I think I've told you before, I'm the pre-pandemic. They may use the pandemic excuse to never bring me back, but pre-pandemic, I was the volunteer scientist for a 2nd and 5th grade class in Oakland. And I didn't do this out of any sense of goodness. I did this because it's a way to get into the exploratorium for free. You take a bunch of kids you walk around the exploratorium as a my age man by yourself and people look at you funny. But you walk in with a bunch of strangers' kids and they don't care. Get in free. Actually, they thank you. So one of the things that we do with the 5th graders, so they're starting to learn about the eye, is we have them sit, 6-8 feet in front of a whiteboard, and we'll draw a spot on the board, then take a laser pointer, and if they look directly at the spot, not follow the laser pointer, that's the hard thing with 5th graders, is getting them to follow directions. It's also the hard thing with college students, but
Thank you, Professor.
when you're my age, everyone looks like a 5th grader. Enjoy it while you can. But stare at the dot, follow the laser pointer. One eye has to be closed. Can't do this with both eyes. You'll get to a point where they can't see it, and then all of a sudden they can. Right? And you can. I don't have the board space, but they can't see it all of a sudden, and then again they can. And then you trace up and down from the center of where they can't see it, and there is a big spot on the board for about this distance. You're going to get a spot about like that they can't see. And if I put my head here and wiggle my arm, they get headless teacher. They love that. They love seeing me headless. It unnerves them to see the real teacher, but me they don't like. You guys can clearly sympathize. But headless teacher, they love it. Do you guys know how to do mathematical interpolation?
What's that?
It's a form of weighted averaging.
A little bit.
I know that
Everybody say their subject is a new language, like physics is language, music is a language,
Sure, it is.
math is a language.
So, I know you can all do interpolation because you can't normally see your blind spot, right?
No.
You don't know it's there. Your brain is doing interpolation to fill in the gaps. Your brain is taking information from one eye and putting it in the place of the other. And it does that for both eyes, that you can't see where the blind... But still, if you close one eye, you still can't see your blind spot, right? You still don't see that, oh, there's a big spot in your vision that you can't see. And so what your brain is doing is, even with just one eye, it says, well, I see white over here, I see white over here. I'm going to guess that there's white right here. That is mathematical interpolation. It's filling in the missing information with information it does have. So, I don't know. Your brain is a very powerful image processor. Faster than any computer I know of. So
Of course. Really, there's no stupid stuff.
it's pretty impressive. So, in the past couple of months, I've had a couple of my friends have had children, babies. So there's a picture of me holding one of my friend's babies from 2 weekends ago. My old college roommate. And good golly, I don't know who that old man was holding that little baby, but I have never, I guess I haven't seen myself in a while, because it was scary. But have you ever, I'm surprised the baby didn't scream, except that, have you ever watched a baby try to focus? They have trouble focusing.
Yeah, they are. Looks like cannot see.
Their eyes are still growing. In fact, they can't focus. So this is the sort of thing that gives scientists bad names. But there was a set of experiments in the, I want to say late 1800s, maybe early 1900s. I'm going to say 1800s so that we can put it on, people in the more distant past. But they took a bunch of chimpanzees from birth, and they gave them monocles, like those, one-sided lenses, fitted over one of their eyes.
Oh.
And there is such a connection between the brain and the eye that what's supposed to happen is there's a feedback loop where the eye grows until the baby can see, and then the brain says, stop growing. And the eye stops growing. If that signal comes too late, then the eye looks like an olive, and light focuses in front of the fovea.
It screws up their vision.
Yes. If the signal to shut down the growing process comes too late, or sorry, too early, then the eye is too short, and the light focuses behind the fovea. Also a problem, right? So they were actually able to get these chimps' eyes to grow two different lengths. Like one eye, it's not a nice experiment, I know, but so that
Science.
so that the chimp could really, it would not have the right vision with one of its eyes, because
How'd they get it to grow too late?
what's that?
How'd they get it to grow too late?
Oh, you can use different lenses. So
Go mad.
so if you if you put, so what kind of lens is going to bring this back this way? Converging or diverging?
Diverging.
Converging. If I put a converging lens here, note that it's going to make it converge sooner, right? And so if you put that lens in front of the chimp's eye, it's going to be able to see sooner, and so it's going to tell that eye to stop growing. If you put a diverging lens, what's that going to do to the light? well, it's going to make it converge further away. And so the eye won't stop growing until that occurs. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So again, like the connection between the brain and the eye is really, really
So
impressive.
what was the goal of the experiment? To see
I
if you
think
can
it was to
manipulate?
understand. I'm not a biologist. I think it was to understand the relationship between the brain and the eye. So there, and the feedback loop there.
Question. Do they rip the chimpanzee's eyes out? Or do
No, but after they died, well, and I think they may have hastened the death. They did check to see if the two eyes were the same length or not. So